I can guarantee that you are ruining your bass lines without even knowing it. So you all heard this production advice online that you should always have a separate sub-bass layer. But what if this advice is actually ruining your tracks and making your mixes sound weak and muddy? And it can be the difference between your basses sounding like this, or like this. In this video, I'm going to teach you my go-to bass mixing formula so that you can get clean and powerful bass lines every time you produce a track, starting with the sub-bass theory. So you create a separate sub-bass layer without understanding if it's actually needed. Your bass sounds weak, you overcomplicate the mixing process as you have two basses instead of one, you get phase problems between mid and sub-bass because it's harder to align them together, and your basses sound like two separate synths. And the problem with the sub-bass layering is that most of the times the sub will suck and the top bass will suck. Let's start with tip number one, key of the track. Low keys like C, D, E sound great with separate top and sub bass layers. They lack the top end and don't always cut through the mix. Here's an example with C sharp with the same bass melody. As you can hear, this bass line sounds deeper and lacks a bit of top end compared to the first melody that I've shown you. Now let's talk about the high keys like F, G, A, B. They don't need a separate sub. They have enough bass and top and sound balanced just by itself. So more sub, less dirt in high keys. And let's just compare that to same melody, but with G sharp. And you will realize that by changing the key, you don't need to layer a separate top sub. And it's actually going to sound clean in the mix. Check it out. To summarize, before layering sub and mid bass, go with one main bass layer first and try different keys because it's going to be easier for you to mix if you have only one bass, trust me. Tip number two, sound design and production decisions. You can separate your mid and sub bass as a creative decision. For example, the mid bass could play a different rhythm. So we could have a sustained sub layer and then the mid bass that is going to be like lead and bass at the same time. I have an example here. So if you listen to the bass, it is sustained and we have this top layer. Check it out. So really cool. Again, keeps the bass clean and you have nice separation. So you have to be intentional with your decisions to understand why you are doing this. Another example would be this. It's going to be a little bit harder for you to hear, but the bass goes like dun, 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 dun. So listen to the sub and listen to the layers here really carefully. So you can hear dun, 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 dun. When it comes to sub-bass layering, it's very genre and style dependent. Some styles of music like dubstep or drum and bass rely on bass layering. What works for one style may not work for another one. So I have this example of kind of like melodic techno track, and it is a pretty low key. So I had to layer my bass line with the top bass. If we play just the sub, it's not really giving you enough of the top end, right? So we can check here. Listen. it just doesn't cut through. So in this case, yes, it actually makes sense to add a mid bass on top, which sounds like this, and gives us more like rhythm, more drive, more groove. Tip number 4, mixing decision. Split mid and sub bass if you need specific processing. For example, stereo effects on mid bass to make it wide. So in this example, sub is mono, top bass is wide. And I have another example for you here. In this example, I separated the FX layer because it's wide, and I applied some reverb and some FX on it. So check it out. Because I cannot apply this to the sub. We're gonna have some phase problems, and do not apply any stereo effects on the actual bass. And then we have the sub, which is mono, and which is giving the body to the bass line. So in this case, both of two layers, they complement each other. And with the kick and the drums, it sounds amazing. So these are 4 examples when you should or should not layer your baseline. Now let's talk about the actual system, the process that I use to understand whether I should be layering my baselines or if I should keep it simple. So decide the genre and the style of track you are producing. Very important. Listen to references for inspiration. Analyze sound design and mixing techniques they are using. Decide what kind of bass you want in the track. Sustained, plucky, wide, deep, percussive, tom bass line. Decide what key the track will be in. You can play with that later. And be specific. This will help you understand the sound design and mixing techniques you will need. A lot of times you sit in front of your tour without actual game plan, and you are second guessing yourself, you are thinking too much, and you need to be doing, and you have to be intentional with what you want to create, how you want to create, because when you have a specific goal, a plan in mind, then you know, okay, I need to do X, Y, Z to achieve this type of drums, this type of bass, and this type of track, okay? And this is the actual process that I'm going to be using. So you have decided the genre, the type of bass. You create the first version of your bass line. Now analyze it. What does it need? If it sounds great on its own, leave it the way it is. Maybe it's like a simple bass line, just one layer. If it doesn't cut through the mix, try layering a top bass or changing the key. I would change the key first. If the mid and top part sounds great, like sometimes you can find a nice preset, but the low end is weak, create a separate sub layer to make sure that, you know, it's cohesive and it sounds good. If it needs more width, add mid bass on top. So this is the overall process. It's again about being analytical, it's about being intentional, and this is the guideline for you to always like question your process and always have a clear goal in mind so that you can produce efficiently and you can get the sound that you have in your head. Because if you don't know what you want, how can you get the bass and how can you get the track that you want? If you got value from this video and you want to work on your music production skills with me, check the links down below. I have coaching solutions and some free courses, and I'm gonna link a playlist with the videos here about the bass so you can learn more about creating good sounding professional bass lines. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Ciao.